if you're in a live setting, you're not going to say, oh, wait, let me say that a different way. Let me go back 3 slides and teach that again. Like, no, because people are sitting there watching you right now. So press record and give yourself 90 minutes and walk through this one specific thing.
Hi, I'm James Taylor, business creativity and innovation keynote speaker, and this is The Creative Life, a show dedicated to you, the creative. If you're looking for motivation, inspiration, and advice while at home, at work, or on your daily commute, then this show is for you. Each episode brings you a successful creative, whether that's an author, musician, entrepreneur, performer, designer, or thought leader. They'll share with you their journey, their successes, their failures, their creative process, and much, much more. You'll find show notes for this episode, as well as free training on creativity, over at jamestaylor.me. Enjoy this episode. Hey there, it's James Taylor, and I'm delighted today to welcome onto the show Brian Dixon. Brian Dixon believes you are here for a purpose. As a podcaster, conference speaker, and business coach, he is passionate about helping high potential leaders and teams thrive in a world of overwhelming options. He has a doctoral degree from the University of San Diego, and today he spends his time helping people clarify their message, build their audience, and create and launch life-changing products. It's my great pleasure to welcome Brian onto the show today. So welcome, Brian.
James, thank you so much for having me. I'm so honored to be here.
So share with everyone, I believe you're on the road just now. What are you up to at the moment?
Yes, so I'm at a conference on podcasting. So one of the things I love to do is to help people through coaching. So I have this thing called Clarity Coaching, helping people figure out their audience, their message, and their products, the AMP process. And so I'm at a podcasting conference just to kind of take my skills to the next level and also meet other podcasters as well.
Fantastic. So how did you get into, I mentioned you kind of have had various kind of careers, journeys over the time. So take us back a little bit and then tell us how you got into the kind of work that you're doing today.
Oh, absolutely. Like probably many of your listeners, I was in a day job. I was working for a company. My industry was education. So I was a school teacher for 7 years, middle school and high school. And then, just as a result of continually getting frustrated with the rules, the administration, we call it administrivia, just sort of like all the things that take away from the real reason I became a teacher, which was to impact kids. I kept getting these leadership positions. So first it was teaching teachers technology, and then it was leading summer training seminars, and then it was speaking at conferences. And I sort of just kept looking at like, how can I help to innovate education? I had a blog for years called Innovative Education. It's like, how can we make education better? And so my last position in education was as the founder of a charter school. So in the United States, especially in the southeast of the United States, several of the states have public education systems that are just not doing very well. They don't serve all kids. There's kids that are really being left behind. There's kids that, just don't have really dynamic, engaged, high qualified teachers. And so the charter school movement is an opportunity to innovate from within the system. It's almost like having a startup company inside of a school district. So I got to start one of those charter schools. And as a result, I fell in love with entrepreneurship. I call it Edupreneurship. So education entrepreneur, which led to my first book and speaking at conferences. And then as I was talking with other authors, I realized that many authors really struggle with, how do I clarify my message? How do I find my readers? And how do I actually market my book? And so that's what I do full time now, is I help authors and speakers, help business leaders clarify their message, engage their audience, and create their products.
So going from that world of getting a paycheck, being an educator, getting that paycheck, to then going to a world of kind of full entrepreneurship, I'm guessing there might be some fears around that. So talk about any kind of fears you had to making that transition, and how you kind of overcame those fears.
Oh, absolutely. James, that's such a good question. For many of us, entrepreneurship is not a solo journey. There are other stakeholders involved. And so for me, I was married for, we would be like 11 years, 10 or 11 years. We had 2 kids. And so, many people that I've spoken with that are in their 30s and 40s are saying it's too late for me to start my own thing because I have this secure job, because I have, these bills, because I have this expectation of me from my family that I'm going to be going to work. I can't just leave that all and go start my own thing. And I had those fears too. Absolutely. Much of it started with a conversation. So saying to Julie, to my wife, even though I've got a really good job, I don't think it's my dream job. And just starting it there, that's probably my number one piece of advice for those of you that are watching right now or listening right now that are in a day job, but it's not your dream. Maybe your dream is to start your own business, or your dream is to go work for a certain company. Just to tell your significant other, whether it's your spouse, your family, what have you, to say, I think there's something different, or I think there's something more out there. What do you think? So not to like dream on people, but dream with people. And that's where it really started. It's just Julie and I starting to figure it out. So the way that we got started, and I say we, because it wasn't my journey, it was the two of us, is I started going to career conferences. So one of them is called Dream Year, which was all about trying to figure out your dream. I've since become friends with the guy who founded it, Ben Arment. He has a great book called Dream Year. So I highly recommend that book. And we invested, we spent a couple $100 for me to go to that conference, to meet Ben, to walk through a process of how to discover your dream. That was one. And then the other one was now a friend as well, Dan Miller. And he had a weekend conference called Innovate. And it was about how to find an innovative career. So what I'd say is one of the best things that you can do is recognize the same pain. So the pain you're experiencing. So what about your job is sucking your soul, right? What about what you're doing for a living is making you dread facing your day? So acknowledge that first. So it's the same pain. Then being on the same page. And usually that's the dream. So to talk with your spouse, to talk with your significant other and say, you know what? I'd love to be a full-time entrepreneur, or I'd love to work for this company, or I'd love to live this certain place. But getting clear on that page. And then here's the third part, and this is where a lot of people miss it. And this is what helped me, is having the same plan. So we had a plan where we spoke about it and we said, this is what it would take for Brian to leave his job. So it was a certain level of savings. It was a certain level of clients, of income that was coming in. And it was a certain level of the kind of work that I wanted to do. And knowing those three criteria helped us be on the same page or actually have the same power while we were going through that same plan to be on the same page. So that's what I'd recommend to those that are thinking about leaving whatever they happen to be doing, because if you don't have some sort of a process like that, the divorce rates are really high, right? I mean, your family could resent your dream, because you're leaving them all the time and they don't know why.
It feels like you're going off on this solo journey. You're not going together in this journey. So how long was that process of going from, okay, I'm going to make a change, to actually leaving the day job and then doing what you do today full time?
Oh, it's such a good question. The truth is it's longer than I think anybody wanted it to be, because if you're going to do something right, sometimes the best way to do something is slow. And I didn't want it to be slow, but yeah, it took about 3 years.
Yeah.
It took about 3 years from when the moment I realized that because see, I had the opportunity to start something at a company, right? I started a charter school as part of this bigger thing. So for a little while I thought, maybe this is my dream. And then it hit me. This one night, I remember we had this open house night, and I could see my team, and they were running the open house. And I looked around and I realized they don't need my ninja skills anymore. Like I can go do something else, and they're going to be fine without me. And as a serial entrepreneur, I think that's the moment we realize, if this thing can run on its own, let's go start something new. So I realized that about going into the second year of the school, and then I didn't leave until going into the fifth year of the school. So it was a good 3, almost 4 years of a path to actually exiting.
I don't think that's uncommon. There was Shirley Davis, who's a great speaker I interviewed recently, who was actually a kind of protege of Les Brown, a great motivational speaker. And I know Dr. Shirley, she made a move from, she was in a very senior position in, I can't remember what the organization was, but it was around human resources, very senior in that position. And she set herself, she's very structured in her thinking,
she said it's a 3-year goal. And
Yep.
she did all the things, and she just took that ramp so that the income from her speaking and her other programs gradually came up to the point it was going way beyond what she was getting a normal job. And then she just said, okay, I think the other thing that she was trying to do, which sounds like you kind of tried to do, you were doing as well, is she didn't want to leave the company in the lurch. She wanted to make sure that transition was good for the company that she was leaving, and she could help in terms of succession planning, training the next person that was going to come into her job. And I think she gave them like a year. She just 2 years just to build everything, and then she gave them a year's notice, say, okay, I'll find the person that's going to replace me. I'll help you find that person and train them and develop them. I mean, that's great. I love it. It doesn't have to be this kind of overnight, go and hand in your notice overnight. So you're known for today about this idea of really helping entrepreneurs clarify their message, build their audience, and create products.
That's right.
There's a training I've seen you do before, which is talking about 4 products you can create in just 4 hours or less. Because think like products, like, wow, that's like going to be a year's work or a couple of years work to create this first thing that's going to help me make this income. But you come at it from a slightly different perspective. So take us through how it doesn't have to be as hard. It doesn't.
Yes, absolutely. So, one of the biggest gaps I've seen is from 0 to 1, right? And there's a classic book by Peter Thiel on that concept of 0 to 1. Like the gap between I'm not making any money and I've made $1 is actually way larger than the gap between I've made $100,000 and now I made $1 million. So, I've scaled a few businesses to that 7-figure mark. So I've gone through that process a few times now, and I can attest to that. Getting that first customer is harder than scaling from 6 to 7 figures. And I heard other people say it. I'm like, that's not true. I got to tell you, James, it's absolutely true. Because what often happens, and I work with a lot of authors, so I try to use authors as an example, but this applies to entrepreneurs as well, is there's a shift that authors go through where they go from writing for themselves to writing for a reader. And in the same way, entrepreneurs go from creating something for themselves or starting their business dream to now creating a product that solves a problem for somebody else. Because people pay for the pain to go away, right? Good products and services solve a problem. And so here's the thing, James, it doesn't take more than a weekend to get something off the ground, to get something started where people can actually give you real money, because nothing validates a business idea like somebody actually giving you money. Because the truth is, all day long, people will pat you on the head and say, good job, James, like, go ahead and start your own thing. You can do it. But then you ask for the sale and it changes the conversation. And with authors, as an example, everybody will tell you, yeah, go write a book. I'll be your first reader. But then when you actually publish a book and you have it in your hand and you say, great, here it is, it's $20, you'll see the conversation change. And so I want to get you there as fast as possible. So there's a few different kind of products that I can walk you through. So whenever you're watching or listening to this, I want you to look at the time right now and set out a time, let's say 36 hours in the future. So I believe you can do it in 4 hours, but I'm going to give you even more than that, a day and a half. Okay. So if you're watching this at night, a day and a half is going to be the morning, or if you're watching this in the morning, a day and a half is going to be the evening. So within the next 36 hours, you can create a product that you can sell. And I'll walk you through a couple examples. Does that sound good?
Sounds great. Let's go for it.
Okay. So the first one that I recommend is called a swipe file. And basically a swipe file is you taking the resources that you've created because of your job and offering them for sale to somebody who's just getting started. So as an example, when I was a teacher, I would create lesson plans that were my own, right? It's my own intellectual property. I created these lesson plans. Or I had these activities that I do with kids at the beginning of the school year to help build teamwork and help build that classroom culture. And these are things that I developed over time, right? I was a classroom teacher for 7 years. And in the same way, you guys, you have created something that you use almost every day. So maybe, for example, it's the 3 emails you send to land a new client. and you've crafted these emails, and you've modified and edited these emails and tweaked these emails. And now you have these 3 emails that you send to introduce yourself to a new client that will lead to a phone call. And you know, we know that's one of the hardest parts in sales, is just to get somebody's attention, right? To go from a cold prospect to a warm lead. And so you have that asset that you've already created. And here's my message to you. It's valuable. It's valuable for somebody who's just getting started. So we call that a swipe file. And basically the way it works is for, let's say, $27. That's a really easy price point. $27, what you'd offer is a PDF document. And the PDF document it consists of, you know, my 3 favorite emails, 3 emails that will help you go from a cold prospect to a warm lead. And maybe if you want to make it a little fancy, you could even record your screen using QuickTime Recorder, which is a free app. QuickTime Recorder, record your screen, and you just talk through, how do you use these emails? How do you customize these emails? When do you send email 1? And then when you send email 2, what happens if they reply to email 1? Like, what do you do? So you just sort of like explain your process that you already use, and then offering that up for sale to somebody who has the pain that that product solves. So then just reaching out either through LinkedIn or even on Facebook. You could always create ads. You could go on people's podcasts. There's a lot of ways to get the message out. But essentially what you're saying is, hey guys, you know how I have grown my sales, so whatever your industry is. So you know how I've been able to land these awesome clients. I actually have these 3 emails that work every time, or work 80% of the time. And I put them together in a little package, and it's called my email vault. And you can get access to my email vault by sending me a direct message. So that's it. You just even put that on your personal Facebook profile. People write you and say, hey, I'd love access to that. And you say, great. In the future, I'm going to charge a lot more for this. But right now, because I'm just getting started, I'm only going to charge $27 for it. And just PayPal me $27 and I'll send you this PDF.
So this would be like
that sounds like a no-brainer.
So a very quick thing to create. This
yes.
This auto acts can act like a self-liquidating offer where you can drive ad traffic to it. It liquidates the cost of the ad, which means you can acquire potential prospects to whatever your future thing is. But once you've covered that cost, you've already made the money just from that selling that really low price thing. Everything's profit after that. So it's a very
absolutely,
you know, it's a no-brainer. You know, there's like a Ryan Dixon, you know, there's a stick of gum at the checkout counter.
Yeah, that's right.
You even think about it. It's, that's of course that makes sense. I'm just going to buy that now.
Yeah, I'm just going to buy it now. It's a no-brainer price. And I'm familiar with Digital Marketer and Ryan's training as well. So I love it. But here's my one caution to you guys. It's so easy to keep learning, and to avoid doing. And I was that guy too. Like, I'd sign up for Digital Marketer. I'd watch every webinar they had, and I'd go, I'd download the recordings of all their conferences, but go take action. So I really believe that what I just shared, this swipe file, that you could make that in 4 hours or less. That right now you could log into your Gmail account. You could look at which emails got replied to. You can copy them, put them in a Word document, or put them in a Google document. You could have them, all the text there. You can go to Fiverr.com, hire somebody to create this PDF for you. Like, just go take action. Yeah. Because a product that is $27 is worth a lot more than a product that's $1,000 but has never been published. So go publish this one first, and then you can build out the whole funnel later.
Great. So what's next? What's that next product?
Yeah. So I call this the look over my shoulder. So imagine that, whatever you happen to be doing. So I'll use the teaching thing as an example. Let's say I'm going out of town. And this is actually how I discovered this as a potential product. I was going to a conference as a teacher, and I was going to be gone for 3 school days, which as a teacher, that's a lot of time to be away. And so I had an intern, a teaching candidate who had been shadowing me for that semester. And before I left, I had her sort of come over and look over my shoulder. And I said, listen, and I showed her my screen and I said, here's the plan. So Tuesday, here's what I want you to teach. And I showed her, this is the PowerPoint. Here's the words you say at the beginning of class. Here's how to take attendance. And essentially what I was doing is I was training her. So imagine somebody's looking over your shoulder and you're just kind of leaning back and you're saying, hey, So here's how you land the client, right? Here's how you deliver the service. Here's how you do what I do. So imagine you're going out of town, or imagine you're going to get surgery, or you're about to have a baby, or a family emergencies come up and you only have 90 minutes. Imagine you have 90 minutes to teach your protege or to teach an intern how to do what you do while you're away. You're going to be gone for 3 days. You won't be able to do your business, but your business is still running because your clients and customers are depending on you.
So unlike a swipe file, also what you're doing with the looking over the shoulder is you're showing the tactical side, but you're also probably doing a little bit about the why. Well, this is why that lesson before that lesson, for example.
Exactly. And here's the thing. It doesn't have to be fancy, right? Our buddy Amy Porterfield says, start simple, get fancy later. And I love that concept. So literally you can take your phone, you can set it up on like one of those gorilla pods or a tripod, or, put it like angle it against a bookshelf, leaning down, looking at you. And you're just turning to the camera and you're saying, so, hey, welcome to video lesson 1. And in this video, here's what we're going to do. And you just explain and they just look over your shoulder. Now you might say that's not very, very fancy. I should do a whole video shoot and hire a videographer. Yeah. For version 2, version 1, you just get them to look over your shoulder. Because here's the thing. If you film it, even just on an iPhone, then you can upload it to a website that will transcribe what you said. So now you have a text version. You could export the audio. So now you have an audio version. You could pay somebody on Upwork or on Fiverr to edit the videos for you. But all of those things take care of themselves. The bigger gap is in actually pressing record, right? Yeah. Is actually sitting down in front of your computer, looking over your shoulder and saying, hey, here's the process. So as an example, my buddy John Nemo, he has a company called LinkedIn Riches, and he teaches you how to use LinkedIn for networking and for sales. This is how John started. John basically just filmed himself explaining how he does networking and how he does sales with LinkedIn. That's it. He just started explaining his process. So the first thing I do, I log in at 8:10 in the morning and I search for this keyword and I click on those, like step by step, to the point where you're going to feel like it's so obvious. But James, what I've learned is what's obvious to you is magic to other people. Yeah. When I went through John's program and he said, oh, you can just search by, what do you call it? You can search by job titles for companies of a certain size. Mind blowing. I had no idea you can do that. But for him, it was like so obvious. Yeah, you just type in the job title and then you do the filter and you say companies that are larger than 5 employees, and that's who you should. And I'm like, I had no idea you could do that. So here's the thing.
Let's look over the shoulder product is like a one video type of product, or what's the ideal kind of size and the kind of pricing for something like that?
Yeah, I love that question, because I think the answer can vary depending on your industry and depending on the pain point. What I would do is I'd give yourself 90 minutes, because just think about that urgency, right? Like, I found out, dad's having heart surgery and I've got to drive, 100 miles to go be with dad for the weekend. And so I only have 90 minutes to teach my protege looking over my shoulder what I need to do, like what this person needs to do when I'm gone. So make it really practical. Literally set a timer for yourself. Say, I'm going to give it 90 minutes and I'm going to teach my whole process in only 90 minutes. So no retakes, no, fancy intros, no teleprompter, nothing like that. Just film it. Because I really believe, especially as an author, you've got to write it down. You've got to get it down before you can clean it up. And what often happens with writers is we want to edit as we write. You don't edit while you write. You edit after you've written. And in the same way for entrepreneurs, a great way to create a product is just to film it as if it's live, because if you're in a live setting, you're not going to say, oh, wait, let me say that a different way. Let me go back 3 slides and teach that again. Like, no, because people are sitting there watching you right now. So press record and give yourself 90 minutes and walk through this one specific thing. Just go through it, because once you have that video file, then other people can cut it up into modules and sections. They could always add slides or titles and music and all that stuff later. But really, that's not the point. The point is you getting it out of your head and going and helping somebody with that content.
Okay. And so what's the third product? So we've talked about the swipe file, the look over my shoulder product. What's the next one in that cycle?
Yes, I love it. So the next one that I would do is I would say, let me walk with you. Let me work with you. And so, I've changed these over the years, but I think this is probably the easiest product to create, is giving personal feedback to people. Because listen, we can go listen to a bunch more podcasts, or go download the newest audiobook, or go watch somebody on YouTube. But that's a one-way communication channel, right? So I'm watching this YouTube video, but I have a question. Can you repeat that? Like, could you say that in a different way? Does that apply to me? I have all these questions, but I can't necessarily reach out to that person on YouTube and say, like, remember that part in that video that you filmed a year and a half ago? Can you explain that about how it applies to me? It just doesn't quite work that way. So this is where coaching comes in mind. And I actually think coaching is the easiest product to launch. So my favorite way to launch personal coaching is pretty simple. What you do is you create a checklist. So for example, let's say you're in sales and you have these 7 steps to nurturing somebody from going from a cold prospect to a warm lead, just kind of staying with that theme. Your checklist would be, your 7 stages. What are the 7 steps? And you offer that on your website as a free download, right? So we're probably familiar with this concept, right? Somebody clicks the button, enters their name and email, and then the first email that they receive is going to say, here is your checklist. Here's the checklist that you asked for. So what I do is on the thank you page of that checklist, so they enter their name and email, and then it gets to the thank you page, is you create a little video. So this one actually takes a lot less than 4 hours. This is like 30 minutes, maybe even like 10 minutes. You hold up your phone and you say, hey, it's Brian. Thanks so much for requesting the checklist. Check your email in about 15 minutes. But while you're here, I wanted to make you a special offer. This is very much in line with what digital marketer does, right? They might call this a tripwire product. So you say,
which I hate the name of. I refuse to.
I know.
That name is a horrible name. Thinking about customers and tripwires is a horrible, horrible thing.
Yes, I call it a thank you page offer.
Yeah.
Okay? A thank you offer. So you're thanking them for requesting the PDF. They're going to get it in the first email. So you can set that up with ConvertKit or MailChimp or whatever you use. First email sends the PDF. Don't put the PDF on the thank you page because you want to make sure it's a real email, right? So if you put the PDF on the thank you page, they could have put a fake email and they still get the PDF. So put the PDF link in the first email, and then on the thank you page, you have a video of yourself. You can even upload it to YouTube and embed it. Like, it's really easy to do now. And what you do, James, is you say, thanks for requesting the PDF. Check your email in about 15 minutes. But while you're here, I wanted to make you a special offer. I would love to work with you one-on-one. We can schedule a Zoom call, 30 minutes. I'll walk you through the checklist and I'll answer any questions you have to help you implement it in your business. And I'll offer to you as a discount because you're one of my newest email subscribers. So as an example, you might say $37, $47, $67, $97, somewhere in that range. I wouldn't go over $100. So for example, you might say it's $67 for a 30-minute Zoom call. And the way it works is they click the button, they would enter their information like on PayPal. You don't have to set up a whole fancy shopping cart if you don't have one yet. And then on the so you set up the PayPal button, $67. They say, yes, I want to hire James to do a one-on-one Zoom call. They click the button, and then that thank you page takes them to a Calendly booking appointment, right? So like a Acuity or a Calendly scheduler, and they book it. And see, Calendly works with Zoom. So you tie your Zoom account to your Calendly account. So somebody buys that one 30-minute Zoom call, and then they get to the thank you page. They can book that Zoom call right away through your calendar. It checks your calendar to see when you're available. And this is like magic, right? Like on my watch is connected to PayPal. So PayPal will pop up and say, oh, somebody just paid you $67. And then I'll log into my calendar, James. And it's like, oh, I've got a call with James on Thursday. This is awesome.
And then on that call, that's when you would obviously help them solve that initial problem, whatever that initial thing was. And then they say, and if you want, would you like to know more? Because there's other ways I can help you. And that's when you would make the offer for further coaching.
For number 4. Yeah, for number 4.
So basically, the number 3 is the let me work with you. But it's like a really small, like really focused problem. Like this, right. That one thing that is the key pain point that particular avatar, customer avatar.
Yeah, what they're really getting with number 3 is I would just call this a one-on-one Zoom call. It's just a short coaching call, because often what happens is people that say yes to this have been following us for a while. Maybe they're a friend on Facebook, maybe they've been listening to our podcast, or they've seen us do a keynote speech at a conference, and then they go download that PDF, or they request the PDF, and then our face pops up and they know us from the conference or they know us from the podcast, and we say, I'd love to answer your questions. And what they're thinking, James, is they're thinking, finally, like, Brian will answer my questions. This is amazing. I had no idea he even does this. And so usually when people book the time, the first question is like, thank you. Like, thank you for doing this, because I have this list of questions I wanted to ask you, but I had no idea how to do that. So you're basically creating a product, and the product you're creating is just your availability. You're just making yourself available to answer their questions.
So you're also switching out there, because like the swipe file is creating a piece of intellectual property. It's, it could be selling while you sleep. Likewise, look over my shoulder. Now you're moving into like the selling time for money. So it's your actual time. And then they're putting a price on that.
Yes. And there's 2 benefits for you guys in doing this. Okay. Number 1 is, one of the best things you can do in your business is talk directly to customers, to see their face, to hear their voice, to understand where is it that they are stuck. When you hear where they're stuck, often what happens is you go, oh, they just need to do this. And I mentioned Dan Miller before. So Dan says, when 3 people ask you the same question, it's time to create a product. So think about, what are the questions people keep asking you? Maybe they keep saying, how did you get such a great headshot? Or how do you use LinkedIn? Or, how do you get those keynote speeches? Maybe there's something that you could offer them that you haven't even thought about creating. So think about the questions people are asking you, because often that's a really great product to create.
And so let's talk about that fourth. Once again, all these products are really quick to create. They're not like big, complex, like it's going to take me 9 months to, instructional design or any of this kind of stuff. So what's that fourth product in the cycle?
So the fourth product is an online coaching program. I call it an OCP, an online coaching program. And the way that works, or at least the way that I recommend it, is you look at a problem in your industry and you offer to solve it in a group. So it's a group coaching program. I'm just going to give you like the well-worn path. Like, this is what's worked for me and for my clients repeatedly. Do it over 6 weeks, Monday night, 8 p.m. Eastern. That just happens to be the time that works for a lot of people. And you meet over Zoom. And if you want to get a little fancy, you can even have a private Facebook group. So the way it works is you say, over the next 6 weeks. So over the next 6 weeks, we're going to meet and we're going to create a book proposal together. Or over the next 6 weeks, we're going to meet and we're going to work through having a plan for our next 90 days. So we're going to work on a 90-day business plan over the next 6 weeks. And then what you do, so they buy it. And so let's say it's about $50 a week is a good price for that. So $297. So, and I haven't mentioned prices. So let's say the swipe file is $27. That look over my shoulder is probably about a $67 and $97. The one-on-one Zoom call would be about that price as well, $67, $97. This online coaching program, $297 is a really good introductory price point for that, because it's basically $50 a week, right? So over the next 6 weeks, we're going to meet every Monday night at 8 p.m. We'll meet over Zoom in a group. So you schedule a Zoom meeting, not a Zoom webinar, a Zoom meeting, so you can see everybody's faces. And basically what you do is you answer questions. You might give 5 or 10 minutes of teaching. So, hey guys, welcome to the 6-week goal setting program. In the first session, I'm going to teach you how I set goals, and so then you teach them for 5 or 10 minutes about how you set goals, and then you just answer their questions. And so Zoom will record that conversation. So you take that recording, you can put it in that private Facebook group. So only people that bought are part of that Facebook group. You upload the video into the Facebook group so they can watch it whenever they want. Mm-hmm. And you open it and close it. So it opens for the 6 weeks. And once the 6 weeks is over, you close it. And here's the best part, James. You don't have to create the curriculum ahead of time, because week 2 is simply going to answer questions that people had after week 1. So you just, every week, you just keep answering their questions, leading to a specific goal. So as an example, if the specific goal is create a 90-day business plan, or create, your goals for the new year, or, kickstart your fitness, whatever your thing is, you just keep answering their questions over the 6 weeks. And as you do that, what you're actually doing for your business is you're creating your framework. You're creating the foundation of a future product. And so that's a more complicated one. And that would be like a full online course or a full membership site. But you've got to test it first. And so an online coaching program is a great product to create, to test your content, to see what connects and what doesn't. So I don't recommend slides. I don't recommend pre-scripted teaching, because if you have all these slides and then you realize, wait a second, the people that signed up are not even, like, I thought I was starting at level 2. They're not even at level 1. They're not even at level 0. Like, they're just getting started. You have to change all your slides. So just start by showing up and teaching them and serving them and answering their questions. And over time, you'll guide them through this process, and then you'll have these valuable assets at the end of that 6-week process. Great.
So we have these 4 products: the swipe file, and then the look over my shoulder product a little bit higher, then the let me work with you, that kind of personal, very quick call that you're going to be doing, and then moving into the online coaching program, that 6-week program. Fantastic. And once again, what's great about all of these is there's not a lot of technology here. The swipe file, basically PDF and an email is really kind of what's going on there. Look over my shoulder, maybe a video using iPhone, and pretty simple. Let me work with you. Something to accept payments, PayPal, a Calendly,
that's right.
Something to schedule, and maybe a Zoom, to like we're doing just now. And then finally, the online coaching program, pretty much the same again. So super low tech to be able to do this.
That's right. Yeah, and listen, I love tech. Like, we could nerd out on all the fancy stuff. Like in one of our businesses, a business called Hope Writers, like, we have a really fancy dashboard, and we have a follow-up sequence and a retargeting sequence, and a Facebook Pixel and Google Analytics. Like, we can nerd out on all this stuff. But the problem is, how do we get a customer? Like, how do we get a real person paying us money? So these 4 products that I just walked you guys through, I believe each one of these can take less than 4 hours to make. So think about it. If you said to your spouse, hey, can you take the kids to the park and to a movie on Saturday? Because I'm going to go create a product that will actually bring us some money into our house. They'll say, sounds great, I'm in. And then you go and watch this recording again, or listen to this recording again, and follow that process. And you'll have something that you can offer people. Because I really believe people want to work with us. They're just waiting to be asked. And we don't ask them because we don't have anything to offer them. So this will help you have something to finally offer, to go from 0 to 1.
Fantastic. So as we start to finish up here, some quick fire questions for you, Brian. I'd love to know if there was one book you would recommend, not one of your own books, but a book by another author. It could be on this idea around products, or it could be maybe slightly higher, more strategic side. What would that book be?
Oh yeah, there's so many. And I love this question. The one I'd recommend to you guys right now, just based on what we've already talked about, is The Big Leap. The Big Leap by a guy named Gay Hendricks. And basically in The Big Leap, he talks about something called your upper limit challenge. The basic idea is that we have a thermostat. We've set the temperature of the room. And for us to get out of our comfort zone, it's going to feel a little hot. And we've got to reset the temperature. And so especially for those that have a family background that's not about supporting entrepreneurship, this is a great book to overcome some of our limiting beliefs and help us think bigger about our business.
So maybe if you've grown up in a family where, business entrepreneurs would look at, well, that's a little bit kind of greedy, or, it's
yes.
like, so there's limiting beliefs under there. It's a good way of breaking through that. What about an app?
Absolutely.
We just talked about technology for a second, but is there any app or online tool that you find, or mobile tool you find very useful for the work that you do?
Oh, there's so many. I'd say one of the best things to do as an entrepreneur is to have what David Allen from Getting Things Done, he calls it a ubiquitous capture system. And essentially he's saying, have a way to write down your ideas. So the app that I'd recommend is using your Notes app. Most people don't do this, and it's so powerful. On my iPhone, my Notes app is backed up to the cloud, so it's always saved. I open up a note, I hit the little microphone button, and I just talk my idea out. And now it's transcribed forever. And if I lose my phone, I can just log in from my computer and see that note. So capturing ideas in the moment, often I'll go back and I'll go, oh, that's that's a great book title, or that's a great blog post, or that's a great idea for one of my clients. But you have to have a way to quickly write down that idea. And for me, I mean, I can even do it when I'm driving, you know, Siri, open notes, press the little microphone button, and I can just talk out my idea.
And if you were to recommend one album, one piece of music to our audience, what would that be?
Oh my word. I love that question. It's so much fun. I think you just go back to the basics, you know, like one of them that I'd recommend is the first Led Zeppelin album. And the reason I say Zepp is because the first Led Zeppelin album, these guys are like 17 years old when they record this record. And if you listen to the first song, or really, actually, here's the idea. Listen to the first album of anybody. So even James Taylor, the musician, his first album, okay? Or Bob Dylan or Led Zeppelin or you know, the Beatles, like just listen to that first album. Because here's what happens as an entrepreneur. We often compare our beginning to somebody else's middle. Compare your beginning to their beginning. So listen to that first song on their first album and think about what was it like for them to not know how famous they were going to be, how well known they were going to be, but they're just putting their heart and soul into this music. There's something so raw about that first album. So for me, it's first album of Led Zeppelin. Every time I hear it, I'm like, man, if they can do that, I can get my business off the ground.
Fantastic. Don't compare your back shop to other people's front shop. Is the way I express. So final question for you, Brian. I want you to imagine you woke up tomorrow morning and you have to start from scratch. So you have all the skills, all the knowledge, all the tools you've acquired over the years, but no one knows you. You know no one. What would you do? How would you restart things?
I would go fix what's broken. I would look around my community, my neighborhood, my neighbors, my church, my school. You know, I just walk around and I notice things that are broken. So I'd probably start with customer service. I'd see what's broken with customer service. I'd say, hey, like, can I help you grow your business? See how, you know, they're coming through this door, but not through that door. What if I were to help you scale your sales? You know, people want solutions to their problems. They just don't know how to fix it. And so it's really hard for people to read their own label, for them to see the way that they're coming across to people. And then I just do a revenue based on growth, you know, a percentage based on growth. It's such a great way to launch as an entrepreneur, is to say, hey, let's do a baseline of where your sales were at this year or last time this year. And then I'll just get paid a small percent. This is a Jay Abraham model. I'll just get paid a small percentage of the growth. So for me, I launched a lot of clients that way. I said, I'll make 30% of the addition of whatever I helped you make. And so for them, it's like a no-brainer, because it ends up being like 10 or 15% of revenue, but it's all found money for them. So just looking at what's broken and saying, hey, I can help you fix that. And the only way you pay me is if I get you some results. People want to work with you. You'll only get paid when you get results. So you have to work hard to do it. But there's infinite income with that model.
Great. Results in advance. Well, Brian, thank you so much for coming on the show today. Where is the best place for people to go to learn more about you? Obviously, we've been talking about these 4 products today, but I know you have some training. You go much deeper in this and talk about your coaching and other things that you have. Where's the best place for them to go and find all of that?
Absolutely. James, thanks so much. I'm so honored to be here. The best place to find me is just Brian Dixon, BrianDixon.com. I've got a little 30-second quiz right there on the top of my website, which is called the Clarity Quiz. It'll help you get unstuck. So whether you're an employee or an entrepreneur, there are 4 traps that people often face, and I'll help you get unstuck. And then from there, there's different ways to work with me. But let's first help you figure out your next right step by helping you figure out where you're stuck.
Well, Brian, thank you so much for coming on today, sharing about your creative life. I wish you all the success, whether it's on stages or coaching or your books, and look forward to catching up again soon.
Thanks so much, James.
If you're interested in living a more creative life, then I'd love to invite you to join me as I share some of the most successful strategies and techniques that high-performing creatives use. I put them all together in a free downloadable ebook that you can get by going to jamestaylor.me. That's jamestaylor.me to get your free downloadable ebook on creativity.